Yeah, and then I'll just do a little introduction and then we'll just sort of have a half-hour chat.
Cool. Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds fantastic.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the NK Active podcast. Really excited about the guest we have on this month. We have Claire Maxted, who you may have heard of before because she co-founded the Trail Running magazine and now founded World Ginger Running. And she's someone who's basically literally been there, done it, worn a t-shirt when it comes to trail running. And I think it was in 2021, released a book called The Ultimate Trail Running Handbook, which is actually a really nice guide about how to get into trail running. And actually, has some really useful tips about running in general. So, Claire, many thanks for coming on board and taking time out of your schedule to come chat to us.
My
Sort of
pleasure.
tell listeners about just a bit of background about how you've got to where you are today.
Well, I'm not a natural runner. If a 15-year-old me could have seen this book and knew that I was the editor of a trail running magazine and that I would regularly run, like marathons and more, do the Bob Graham round, then I think I would have just fallen over in a faint because I hated running when I was at school. At school, running was presented as something competitive. There was like house cross country, there was the bleep test, there was house athletics as well. And because I was like, I wasn't like the fittest kid around, but I wasn't like super unfit or anything. I was quite active and I was quite like a nice kid at school. The teachers used to just force me to do everything. So I think one year I was doing the 1500 meters, the 800 meters, the 200 meters, and the long jump or something. And I just hated it because being ginger, I was really pale skinned. I'd go bright red at the drop of a hat. The boys would like point at me and go, "Oh, Claire Maxton's gone red already," like that. And when you're like 13, 15, 17, that's not the kind of attention you want from boys. And I just hated that feeling. House cross country in the winter was it was really cold, so you'd breathe in and you'd get that blood taste in your mouth, and everything about running seemed to be about pushing yourself as hard as you could, going as fast as you can. And granted, it probably wasn't long distances compared to what I do now, but just everything about running just wasn't fun. It was like really horrible, and teachers used to be there on the sideline shouting, and people like be like, knees up, and can't you pick your feet up a bit faster? And it was all about criticism and beating yourself up and like being told off, and it just wasn't good. And I really hope that PE at school has changed these days, because I don't think that it's necessarily a good introduction to sport and exercise and well-being for a lot of people that aren't naturally sporty. So I think I'm very lucky that I found running in another way as an adult. I basically got a bit fat at uni because I drank too much beer and enjoyed myself too much. So the quickest way to burn the most calories is running. So I started running again at uni. I was always a really keen hiker, an outdoors person. We used to go on mountain biking holidays when I was younger with my mum and dad. I used to swim a lot as well. I was like quite good at swimming. I'm probably in all the sports probably best at swimming, but I do it the least. But I wanted to do a triathlon, and I wanted to do adventure racing as well. So I had to get my running up to speed. So I started running again at uni, and it was just first of all just like 20 minutes. And at the start, I thought it was like, oh my God, I've got to go really fast. I thought running was about this, run, 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 run. And then I discovered jogging, and what a wonderful thing jogging is. You can cover a lot of miles and be very happy just jogging. So yeah, I think I'd probably say I'm a jogger rather than a runner.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. That's how I got into running again, because I wanted to work off my beer gut.
and actually, running is a really, really nice way of doing things um, after a night out as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
You can clear all the toxins from the body, sweat it all out
it
there.
is. I've actually
That's how it
had
works.
some of my quickest runs the morning after the night before. Um,
Yeah,
I think there's something to be said in there. So it is almost like it sounds like, yeah, you didn't intend to get into the sort of trail running. You sort of just stumbled across it and then and
No,
then got
yeah.
hooked. And that story I hear so often in clinic
That's
with
really
patients.
sad, isn't it?
Um, and it's really, you do touch on a very, very good point with regards to sports and children. And there can be this very competitive nature to it. But one of the beauties about running, and particularly trail running, is actually when you get down to it, no one really cares if you finish first or finish last. You're there
Yeah,
just doing it, having fun with a group of like-minded people. And sometimes, yes, you're racing against yourself. Sometimes you want to be competitive, which is all good, but it's also just as acceptable just to go and do stuff at your own pace. And
yeah.
if you take Park Run, for example, this fantastic thing of 5K every Saturday morning,
Mm,
you got some people that walk it, some people that run it. But the thing you notice, it doesn't matter if you're first or last, everyone is still cheering each other on. And
mm,
it's just that community spirit of it.
yeah. And
And
even
we
more the last runners through, because everybody's finished by then, so there's loads more people to stay and cheer them on. And it's even more kudos if you're, you've put way more effort in, if you're a larger person or if you're a less fit person or if you're an older person, all of those things, that it's even more kudos to actually finish a park run.
yeah, no, exactly. And I think also now trail running is getting more and more popular because I think people are starting to realize that trail running isn't nipping off to the Alps every weekend to run up and down a mountain. It actually
Yeah,
could be done in the countryside in the
yeah, yeah,
UK. And like, unfortunately, I've got the South Downs Way on my doorstep and whatnot. So there is actually loads of places. You've got the Peak District, the Lake District, you've got in the West Country, over in North. You've got loads of places where you can just get up and just go for a run in the woods and just do some trail running. And a lot of my patients say they enjoy it because they literally just don't have to think. They don't have to worry about things. They just go for a run. And it's a
yeah,
case of they're not really worried how long it takes them. And actually, they find it more exciting because there's always things to look at. So they don't sometimes get that boredom factor that you can get if you're just crunching miles on the road, mile after mile after mile. With
yeah.
trail running, there's always something different. So we'll have a quick chat about events that you have done. Because I think you've just come back from UTMB.
Yeah, I didn't actually run the UTMB.
Yeah.
A little bit out of my current fitness level for sure. But yeah, I have just come back from UTMB. Yes,
And
I'm
that's
just coming back into running after having a baby. So yeah, taking it nice and gently, which is not usual for me.
no, it's once you got the bug, it's difficult to be take that slow and steady run. And we have a saying in clinic that a runner who is not running is just a grumpy person. Like
Yes,
like it's
definitely.
we do everything we can to keep runners running, even throughout injuries, if it's safe to do so, because a runner who doesn't run, they're just a grumpy person to deal with in a nutshell.
Yeah, yeah, it's not a good thing if you can't run.
So for the listener, is the what is the UTMB?
It's the Ultra Tour du Mont Blanc. It's just over 100 miles around Mont Blanc. So it starts in Chamonix, which is in France, and it goes through Italy and Switzerland as well. And it goes through up and over various mountain passes. I think there's like 8 or 10 significant uphills. So there's a total of 10,000 meters of ascent throughout the whole race. And they get 46 hours to do the race. It starts on the Friday evening in Chamonix in the main square. There's like 200, I think 2,500 people ran all the various races of the UTMB. There's lots of different ones this year. I think about kind of 2,000 people run the actual UTMB, and it takes a good 3.5 minutes for them all to filter through. And it's, if you can imagine the London Marathon, if you've ever been to watch the London Marathon and the hype that's there at the start line and at the finish, and there's like people, like 10 people deep. It's like that in Chamonix on race day and in all the little villages that it goes through. Everybody comes out to watch the event, even like non-runners support the event because it's just so exciting. The atmosphere is amazing. And they start at about 6 o'clock on the Friday night and they run through the night, and the elites will come in at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, having run for 20 hours. Kilian Jornet just broke the 20-hour record. He did like 19 hours 50 this year, which is amazing. And Then the male runners come in soon after that. The women will come in the early afternoon, so like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, doing the racing like more like 24 hours. And and then everybody else comes in through the second night, and then through to the Sunday morning and afternoon. And by 4 o'clock on Sunday, you've got the last person coming through, and the atmosphere for the last person is incredible, because that person has blood, sweat and tears. They're going to crawl over that finish line. They're going to make it by hook or by crook. So it's really exciting when the last person comes through, and because it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, people have had a beer and everyone's like, hey, and there's just huge cheering. There's this song that plays on repeat. It's called the what's it called? It's like the Evangelist. It's the Conquest of Paradise, and it just plays over and over again. It's very, very stirring. And if you watch enough people finish at the UTMB, you'll probably want to enter the UTMB. So there's a warning there. It's an amazing race to go and watch, but you might find yourself signing up for something that's quite big.
Well, even not even what, just listening to you explain that, I'm like, damn, I got to do this at some point.
You got to go and watch it at some point. And there are other races as well. So there's the there's the MDS. No, that's Marathon Sable.
Marathon Sable.
MCC, that's it. MCC, CCC, OCC as well. So there's the CCC is half the UTMB. The OCC is like a quarter, I think, and then the MCC, I think, is for the media, so that's like a 50k event or something like that. And then there's the TDS as well, which is even harder than the Ultra Tour de Mont Blanc, apparently. It's a bit rougher terrain, even though it's a little bit shorter and a little bit less ascent. It's like brutal, apparently. And then there's this ridiculous thing called the PTS, Le Petit Trot. So that's PST, Le PLT. Le Petit Trot, something like that. It's called the PLT or something, and it takes them 6 days, and they've got to take a helmet with them because they're going through such areas where rocks can fall on them. And you do it in teams, in pairs, so you get like these father-son, mother-daughter, husband and wife teams, or like friends, and they're coming in as well as the UTMB finishers are coming in, and you can tell that they're PTS or something like that, because they just look completely like feral mountain people. They're caked in mud, sweat, dirt, probably something ripped, half a shoe stuck on with gaffer tape. They've got poles, they've got helmets, they've got like this haggard look to their face because they've probably slept for 2 hours a night for 6 days. And it's just an incredible achievement, and you just leave thinking, oh, could I do that? And then you think about the actual logistics of 100 miles through the mountains with 10,000 meters of ascent over, like, not just like over like a nice runnable terrain. It's all rocky. You can go over easily on your ankle, on your knee. It's really treacherous terrain. Like, I think actually somebody really sadly died on one of the races this year, which is an absolute tragedy. But that's the type of terrain we're talking about. Those are the mountain conditions we're talking about here. Not something to be taken lightly. But it's absolutely an incredible achievement if you can do it. I don't think I could do it because I'm not sure that I could put in that level of training. I'm not sure that I want to. I don't know if I want to just run through the night and not really see any of the views. So how I would do the UTMB is like over 6 days, enjoying myself, doing like 20 miles a day, and even that would be an incredible achievement.
Oh yeah, it's you just sort of. I just want to reflect on one bit. 10,000 meters of ascent.
Yeah.
That's just think about that. That's the equivalent of going for, if you just go for a normal 10k run, that's the distance you're going to go uphill throughout that event.
It's more than Everest from sea level, isn't it?
That's just insane. And
and a lot of it is hiking as well. I spoke to the women's winner, Katie Scheid from the USA. I managed to interview her after the race, and I said, what's your top tip for like normal people, more like me, who might want to do the UTMB one day? And she said, there's a lot of hiking. Go hiking. And Jasmine Paris, who's another amazing ultra runner, she won the Spine race outright one year, and I think she still holds the record on that race. She said she goes hiking at altitude for 2 weeks at a time with a huge backpack on, camping with her husband. Less so now, she's got kids presumably, but that's how she used to do a lot of her training, up higher altitude hiking. And that's brilliant to know, because if you're a person that gets regularly injured, like some of the people who might be watching today from that associated with your podcast. Hiking is like who hears of hikers talking about injuries unless they're super old and they've got knee replacements and stuff. You hardly ever hear hikers talking about injuries, but you always hear about runners talking about injuries. So that to think that hiking can be part of your training with a nice big backpack on with walking poles, just nice and slow, taking it easy, looking at the views, isn't that brilliant?
It is. And funny, I had a patient in yesterday, and they were doing an event I hadn't heard of, which is Race to the Wreck.
Race to the Wreck. I've heard of Race to the Stones.
Yeah, I heard of Race to the King, Race to the Stones.
Is it part of the Threshold events series, or is it something different?
This is in the Namibia desert, I believe it is.
Oh, right.
So
is it a plane wreck?
Yeah, it looks like there's just a shipwreck in the middle of the desert that they run. Yeah, I know, and it's over. I think she said around a couple of 100 kilometers.
Okay.
And you sat there going to be race there. Let's have a look. And
I'm googling it now.
And it was a part of her training. We were speaking about the injury she come in with, and we need to basically just help get her ready to race because she's going in November, so she's only got 8 weeks until race day.
Oh, it's a rat race event. I've just found it. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and it looks at it, and again, it's just, but she spent a lot of time over the summer hiking with just in a camper van, hiking in the Lake District, hiking all around those areas. Because a lot of the event it is a walk run event. And then it's even like you say, like questions around about the pack you have. So actually, are you training with the equivalent weight that you're going to be carrying on race day and everything on those lines? And those are really, really important things that you need to consider, I think, when you're training for these events.
Yeah, and hiking is such an important one because I DNF'd the Cape Wrath Ultra in 2018, and there was a lot of hiking involved, and my training had just involved running like 20-mile runs. I did a 100-mile training week doing 20 miles a day for 5 days, and I thought, yeah, brilliant, I'm sorted, I can do this race. But actually when I got there was a shed load of hiking involved, and I hadn't really trained for hiking. And it sounds silly because obviously if you can run you think you can hike, but it's two quite different disciplines actually. And I've taken that into account, and I might do something big like at the end of this next summer, and I haven't quite decided yet. I haven't spoken to family and like sorted it yet, but hiking should be a big part of all ultra runners training if you're going to do one of these like big events like that. But it does take a lot of time to go hiking. It takes a big chunk of time, doesn't it, to do hiking training?
And any ultra event, any ultra event takes huge amounts of commitment and training. And it is. I remember I was speaking to a patient who does full distance Ironman event, and the training for that is effectively a full-time job. If you want to train properly, it's a full-time job to be able to
20 hours a week, isn't it, to be good at that?
crazy. So obviously UTMB is sort of one end of the scale. But then there's going to be people. There are going to be people watching and listening. What about any tips and advice for people at the other end of the scale who are just sort of starting it? Because yes, it sounds fabulous doing UTMB, but I should imagine if you've never done any trail running, it could be a little daunting to think about.
A little bit daunting, yeah. No, I wouldn't suggest starting at the UTMB. I'd suggest going to watch the UTMB and hiking in the mountains. That's absolutely brilliant. And the great thing about going to Chamonix is you can get a cable car up to the top and then just run about in the beautiful scenery and then get a cable car down again. So that's brilliant. So it's good. It's a really great place for all levels. Don't think like you have to do the UTMB. But I started with this set of events called the Lakeland Trails, which still run, and there's loads more events now. But it was about 9 to 11 miles I used to do. And they've got 2 categories. Well, they did at the time that I was doing them about 10 years ago. They had like the walkers category, which starts off an hour earlier. And then they have the runners category, which goes and then you overtake all the walkers, which is quite nice because you can say hello to everybody and they all cheer you on. And if you're a slow runner, you also might want to go in the walkers category just because it might just suit you to be within that sort of time time frame. So they're really brilliant events. They're in the Lake District, hence why they're called the Lakeland Trails. And they were set up by a sort of an acquaintance friend of mine, Graham Patton, who was a really good European mountain runner. And he saw the atmosphere and the sort of pizzazz of the European races, and he wanted to bring that back to the UK. So at those races, you get a real family festival atmosphere. They take place in a big field with parking nearby. You've got a bouncy castle, ice cream van, food stalls, stuff for the kids to do, little kids races around the field, which is really cute. And then you've got a balleted drumming band, you know, those like bands, which really is a fantastic way to start the race. A lot of races do it now, but they were the first people to really bring that out in the UK. And you start off and you're all G'd up, and then you all go, and it's brilliant. And some people, will take it really seriously, and they'll properly like jet off in front, and they'll win the race, whatever, get a course record, whatever. But so many other people are just jogging along, chatting to their friends, taking selfies. There's a really good family festival, friendly, supportive atmosphere at those races. And then because it ends in the field, you often do like a lap of half the field to come back to finish. So you've got people just hanging around eating some food, like families, everyone's family will cheer you on, and there's groups of people, whoever's finished already, they'll be like mooching around with their free meal, with their medal, and they'll be cheering everyone on. So you do this lap of the field and you really feel like royalty finishing, because it's just such a great way to finish a race. You feel really buoyed up by it. It's like a mini UTMB in a way. So I really recommend those events if you've never done a trail running event before. And they're different to road races, trail races, because road races, you get a lot of very serious people looking at their watch, looking at the pace, doing it for a time. Whereas trail races, people are doing it for an experience, or just being out in the mountainside in a safe way. So the course is fully waymarked usually, so you don't have to navigate. You've got marshals, you've got aid stations, and it's just a really nice way to experience a different place. You can do trail races like this. There's races in the Peak District in Wales, in Cornwall, in the Lake District in Scotland. And if you go to like a beginner to intermediate level one, they will all be waymarked usually. You can check on the website, but they're all waymarked. So it's a great way to explore the countryside without having too many mountain skills. Obviously, you've got to take the mandatory kit with you, but it's a good way to be handheld through the mountains and just get your experience up. So really recommend races, not for races' sake, but just for exploring the world.
Well, and there are some really wonderful, weird and wacky ones, and a lot of them tend to be in Wales as well. Some of my colleagues have done man versus horse.
Yeah, Ricky Lightfoot just broke the record, just beat the horse on that, didn't he? First time for many years.
Yeah, and that's the scary thing is, what's fabulous about that race is that there's a prize if you win, and it goes up every year. So next year, if someone beats the horse, the prize pot isn't as big because
you
already won it.
Next year, yeah.
But that's just a crazy event of who come up with the idea. It must have been founded in the pub, I reckon. It must have been.
Oh, must have been. Yeah, all those crazy races, like the wife. Oh, actually, the wife carrying has got a very sinister history. So the wife carrying originated in Sweden or Finland or one of those Scandinavian places, and it was because in the olden days, rival tribes would go and raid the tribe's women and carry them off to be their wives.
Okay,
like, that's like traumatic, but now it's like this fun event where you can carry any old woman, or anyone can be your wife. Actually, anyone light can be your wife, and you just carry them. There's the wife carrying events, so that's a bit.
And I think in that race,
pub idea, a bit more sinister.
Isn't that race the winner of that wins their wife in beer?
Wife weight in beer. And then there's the cheese rolling as well. That's definitely like a villagey type affair, isn't it, where they all like chase a cheese down the hill, and there's that girl that's won it like 4 times because she literally just hurls herself down. People have broken arms, legs, heads. People are in casualty after that every year.
I have seen a few patients who have broken legs and ankles because of the cheese rolling.
Really? Because of the cheese rolling? Wow. Oh my goodness. That's brutal. Commitment, isn't it?
It's for that one. It's a case of you've just got to commit to it, and just it's almost you're in the lap of the gods. You fingers crossed and just hope for the best, isn't it?
Yeah.
So then you published. Was it your first book?
Yes, it's my first book. I've written many things for many magazines, but yeah, my first book, and it was actually really easy to write because I've been writing the same thing for like 7 years in magazines, and it was such a relief to sort of get it all into one place so that it was just there forever in this one place. So I really enjoyed writing it.
No, and I got my copy next to me, but if I put it up, the background, it doesn't, the blue
Yeah, you'll have to hold it right in front of you like that.
Yeah,
Then
see if
it'll
I
get it,
can.
won't it?
Yeah,
Like there, yeah. If you
there we
hold
go.
it in your body, then it'll
There
get
we
it.
go.
There
So,
you go.
and
Yeah.
it is what I liked about the book was how easy reading it was, and how it was filled with very small but informative little tidbits along the way, and just little self-help bits, especially around footwear. Like, actually, I tell patients all day, every day, the best footwear is the shoes you find just most comfortable. And what your best friend wears doesn't mean it's going to be the same shoe that you like. So it is a case of just, you've got to kiss a few frogs, as it were, before you find the prince with some of the shoes. And
Definitely.
you've
I'm
got
still
to
kissing
try.
frogs. I don't know if you can see behind me, but I've got like 25
I,
shoes
I,
stuck there.
I, I,
I still haven't
I, I,
found the perfect pair, and I'm a shoe tester. I just haven't
I've,
found it.
yeah, I've got to the point where I have to order shoes to work, and then I bring them home. My wife's like, another pair of shoes, Nick. And then there's also the element of I do testing for different footwear companies. So often
Oh,
I will
cool.
get sent shoes to try and then feedback on my opinion on them from a sort of a podiatric viewpoint.
Mm.
And then so now I have to say, I did try saying once that this company sent me a pair of shoes. I said, yeah, they sent me a pair of shoes. And then a week later, I did say they also sent me an invoice that I had to pay for those shoes as
Oh, did
well.
they?
So yeah, it was
That's mean if you're giving them
no, it
feedback.
is because those shoes I'd actually paid for, and I tried to get away with my wife saying I didn't pay
Oh,
for
you tried
them.
to say it to your wife. Oh, I
Yeah,
get you.
yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was. Yeah, I got a bit of a footwear issue as well.
I think we all have as runners, but we should buy less shoes because of the environmental impact of a shoe. I just read Damien Hall's book about being more eco-friendly, and shoes are very bad. But this is my service to people. If I try them all on, then hopefully it gives everybody else better opinion on it to make the first choice correctly.
Yes.
But I still haven't found a pair that perfectly fits me. So I really like a wide fit shoe. So I really love Altra and Topo.
Yeah.
But they also, because they're more of a natural kind of thing going on, they all like this whole zero drop business.
Uh-huh.
And I can't run loads and loads of miles in zero drop. So I just really wish that they would make a shoe where maybe I could put an insole in, like a Healy bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I could make them like more like 6 mil. In that way. I'll have to try that actually. I'll speak to you about that separately. Yeah. I haven't found the perfect pair yet. And
So
also,
well, I
one of the
work
most
with a company called Hilo. Now they don't make trail shoes; they make running shoes. But their shoes they actually put more carbon back into the planet. They offset more than they actually take out.
well, that's cool.
And
What's their name? Sorry.
Hilo, Hylo.
Okay.
Um,
I look
and
at
they're
that.
very open about they literally, for their carbon footprint, they won't just tell you for the shoe, they'll tell you for the whole shoe's journey from literally the chain from manufacturer to your front door.
Yeah.
And they make their shoes 100% out of natural materials, so different plants, natural rubber, cork, everything on those lines. And then when you finish with the shoe, they got a service where you post a shoe back to them and they recycle it. So the shoe never ends up in landfill. Always is turned into another shoe or something else. And it's it's a really, really good brand. And they're they haven't been going long. They're a very small company, but they're really making decent headway in the environment side of things, because the issue of running shoes is that it is very, very environmentally costly. There's a lot of carbon involved in the traditional ways. Sometimes there'd be over 30 different processes in making a trainer. 3D printing is improving that, and the old way of the lasts and the shoes always used to end up in landfill. So we're changing that over time, but it is sometimes it's a logistical nightmare of actually, okay, you've got these shoes, how do we actually dismantle these shoes, turn them into different things? And companies are now really starting to try and solve that problem. And High Low, to my knowledge, are the first company really to just tackle it head on.
Yeah, oh, that's brilliant. Oh, thanks for telling me about those. I'll have to get a pair in because I'm writing they've also got a pair, they're not too expensive as well, which is brilliant.
No.
The average shoe price now is £140. Can you
Yeah.
believe that? And with the shoes I've just been testing today, £185. Who's got that kind of money to spend on a shoe? But these, I just saw a pair there for £100, so I'll have to get that in my budget shoe test.
No, and they have so yeah, they have made great improvements with their shoes. It's been fantastic to be involved and watch their journey as they go through. So yeah, I call them, they're my naked running shoe. It's a shoe I use if I run and I don't wear any tech, anything. I'm not worried about speed, time, or anything. And I wear them to work. So it's literally, if I come home, literally swap my work shorts for running shorts, and literally within 2 minutes I'm out running.
Yeah.
Again, or if you need a quick run, 20 minutes for lunch, you want to go out for a run during lunchtime, and you could just get out and just go.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty. So then what would be, if someone's thinking about, oh, actually listening to this, and I'm really excited about the prospects of trail running and start doing some more, what would be your sort of 3 biggest tips for runners who are, or people, not runners, anyone in general who's actually, I want to start doing more of this? How do I go about it?
What, doing more running, or are they runners already that want to do trail running?
Anyone. So we're seeing a lot of people who, during lockdown, during the pandemic, they really realized that actually some of their other sports they couldn't do because they couldn't go to the golf club, tennis club, or anything along those lines, and they started doing more running. And then they also found the benefits. We know that actually, if you talk about running and not just running, exercise in general, it is the best way to manage depression. It's better than any pill that you can have out there, and you've got the mental health benefits of it. So we're finding many people like that are, and it's almost like your story where you're saying, I never thought I'd be a runner. They start doing it and they just get hooked. And actually, do you know what? I'm really enjoying it. It's my personal time. It's all about me having a break. So we're finding more and more people are starting getting a little bit curious about saying, well, maybe do I venture to off-road, or I haven't done anything before. Actually, what do I need to do to sort of get me going in the right direction?
Well, the first thing I would do is to treat it as an adventure, like a bit of exploration. So I know it's a podcast, but anyone who's watching on the video will see there's a map of my local area behind me on my wall. It's a map wallpaper that I've got. So where I live is in the middle, and I can have a look at the map and I can see if there's any sort of hills or anything interesting that I want to explore nearby. So the way that you would do that is you'd buy an OS map of your local area, and you would look on the legend, the key, to see what dotted lines paths look like. So if you've got a 1 to 25,000 map, you'd have the green dotted and dashed lines for paths, and if you're looking at 1 to 50,000, like if you're in Scotland or somewhere, then you'd be looking at the pink dotted lines. But usually you'd probably be getting the 1 to 25,000 OS map of your local area, and it's got loads of green dotted lines on, and so you look for those, and they are footpaths basically. We're really blessed in the UK that we've got about almost 30,000 miles of footpaths that we can legally walk on in the UK, in England and Wales. So that would be the first place I would start. I would plot a little route to like the next village, but on footpaths rather than the road. Or if you're out running and you always see dog walkers like heading into a field, and there's a sign above it saying footpath, just go and explore in there. The top tip I would give for exploring is to turn round every sort of 5 or 10 minutes and take a photo of what's that way, because then if you turn round you'll know what to look for on the way back. You don't think you always have to do a circular route if you're going out doing this exploratory type of run. It's just as good to run out and back, because then you stand much less chance of getting lost when you're just starting to kind of build up your map reading skills. So I would definitely get a map of the local area. Look for like bodies of water. There's a big body of water behind me. It's called Rutland Water. You can actually run all the way around that on really easy to navigate paths. Running around water bodies is absolutely fantastic because you just need to like keep the water to your left or right, and that's really easy to navigate. There's also like patches of green as well. That's forestry. If you see lots of tracks and footpaths through a forest, that usually means that there's lots going on there. There might even be a cafe. It might be managed by the Forestry Commission. There might be preset like paths with like different colours on that you can run different distances on, already waymarked for you. So definitely check one of those out that's local to you as well. National Trust properties and Forestry Commission land usually caters for runners and walkers and cyclists really well. So just do a little bit of exploring in your local area. And then also just like run from home. Like you can just run into your local park and run, like there might be a little wooded section in the park that you've just never been on before because the path doesn't go through there, but there might be like a little snaky path that runs through it. Just explore everything and you might come across really exciting things. Like there might be a big statue in the middle of nowhere or a monument or something, and you'll find yourself picking up like maybe 2 or 3, maybe even 10 local routes that you really know and love. And then one day you'll be like, oh, I haven't run that one for a long time. And you'll feel motivated to go and see what's there. You'll be going motivated to see it in different seasons or maybe see it on a night run and something like that. So definitely use trail running as an excuse to go exploring. That is for a first tip. And then I have a tip about getting motivated. A lot of people, like especially I'm surrounded by like new mums at the moment because I've got a 1.5-year-old. So we've got I have a few friends in a WhatsApp group and they're like, oh my God, how do you motivate yourself to go running? And my top tip here would be, if you just don't really feel like running, if you're not particularly calling yourself a runner, put stuff that you can run in on. So for women, that means a good sports bra. And then for everyone else, just like trainers and comfy clothing that's not too hot. And just go for a walk. Just tell yourself, I'll just go for a walk. So you go for a walk and, you know, your mind wakes up. But after about 5 minutes, you're looking around and you're like, maybe I could do a little jog. So you start doing a little jog and then you might walk again and then you might jog again and then you might jog for the rest of it or you might walk for the rest of it. But if you just get out there and do something, then it might lead to a run. So that's what I do if I'm feeling really tired. If in like 15 minutes I still feel really tired, sometimes I'll just go home. But if you don't do it, you won't do it. So just get out there for that walk. And then tip number 3, so we've done exploring, we've done staying motivated. Tip number 3, I think, would be to have an aim, because like races are brilliant for that, but it doesn't always have to be a race. It could be like, see Rutland Water behind me, that's 15 miles all the way around. You could say, right, in 3 months time I want to be fit enough to run around Rutland Water. So you can gradually up your distance if that's what you want to do, or maybe you want to do a park run in a certain time. So you're like, oh, I want to do a park run in 30 minutes. So you go to park run religiously every week for 3 months and you do a little bit of interval training to get your legs ticking over faster, and yeah, just to have an aim, because it's fine to just float along if you're motivated like that, but a lot of people are motivated by having an end goal. Doesn't necessarily need to be self-improvement either. Like if you can already run 15 miles around Rutland Water, maybe you want to run 15 miles around some other water. Maybe you've got like a location goal in mind, a destination goal in mind. Maybe you want to tie in a race with a holiday, something like that, just to give you something to look forward to and a reason to get out of the door. That would be my 3rd tip.
They are amazing tips. And I really like the it's funny how you talk about just putting some clothes on and go for a walk, and you may end up doing a bit of running.
Yeah, put the right clothes on, get in the costume. It's like an actor on a stage, like get in the costume. And then if you want to run, you've facilitated going for a run.
Well, it's funny you say that because we have our own, it's basically our version of the Couch to 5K. It's just because, and we found some patients that around week 12, I think is the Couch to 5K, it ramps up a bit, and we get a few patients who get a few niggles at that stage. So we've basically created what we call it 0 to 40, which is no running to 40 minutes of running in 16 weeks.
Okay.
And to help people with that, in the early days, it is a lot of walk, running, just because we know by doing that, you're going to reduce your risk of overdoing it and then hopefully reduce the risk of getting injuries as well. And then it also has some common strengthening exercises to then you do alongside that as well. And it is just that walk running is a really great way, I feel, to get in, start doing stuff, because like it doesn't really matter. It's like we say to patients all the time, there is no hard and fast rule when you're coming back from an injury. You will be back running at this X day after injury. It doesn't work like that. We're human beings. We all have loads of other factors that contribute to injuries. So some of it is just, well, let's just go and test the water. Let's just give it a go and just see what happens. And then the more you then do it, then the more confident you feel, and you then keep pushing yourself forward. So I really, really like that tip. And then I also really liked that last tip as well. Also, I think that's a really, really good thing. So they're actually 3 really good tips. And the OS the OS map and taking the photos, I never really thought of actually just turning around and taking a photo. So then that you could then use that to help navigate your way back if you're nervous around getting lost. Yeah.
Oh, the other thing about navigating is like if you see like a big thing, you know, like a spire or one of those mobile phone masts. Like we've got one in our local quarry, and when I was exploring all around that, like that area, like over there, I would often go, oh goodness me, I've gone through so many fields now, I don't know where I am. And I'd see that mast and I'd be like, oh, I live near there. Yeah, so yeah, look for the high things.
I tried at an airport park when you park your car in the airports. You take a photo and you still get lost. You're like, I'm in Green Sea section 2, and you're like,
yeah, where is that?
I took a photo of this.
Car parks with the key that going beep.
Yeah, that's what you do. I mean, go around
over there, the mile over there, quick before someone nicks it.
And again, as I say, that last tip about the goals. When someone comes to see us, we ask them, what does your goal want to be? And your goal doesn't have to be to reach the UTMB. The goal could be just going for a walk with the family on a Sunday. It doesn't matter what that goal is, but I think having a goal gives you something to map towards, so you can then build a structured approach of how am I going to achieve this goal. And then there's also then lots of tips on your YouTube channel as well.
Yes, it's supposed to be helpful. There's lots of advice there from elite athletes, from really top coaches, from nutritionists, sports dietitians. Everything really is covered on there. And I think the best way to navigate getting information out of my YouTube channel, Wild Ginger Running, is to actually, if you've got a query, type that query into Google, like say best nutrition for running, and then after that just put Wild Ginger Running, and whatever I've got on the topic should come up either in my website or via a film, especially if you click on the videos tab of Google as well. So I think that is the best search engine. You could also use the YouTube search engine as well. That's the second most used search engine after Google, actually. But usually Googling the you know, if you want to know, I do a lot of gear reviews. If you want to know about hiking poles or running shoes, then you can just Google that and plus Wild Ginger Running. It should bring up whatever. There's tons of tips on there. And also, if you want to write me a comment on my YouTube channel, if you, under the films, you can write comments, and I answer every single person. So if you have got a question about trail running or running in general or motivation or nutrition, then just write me a comment and I will reply to you with the video if I've got a video on it.
No, that's amazing. And I think because isn't don't Google own YouTube also?
Yeah, that's why they're the biggest.
That's why the tagging works.
Yeah.
So now I try and keep these episodes 30 minutes, and I think we're currently around 43.
Are we? I didn't notice what the time
was. I could happily speak for another hour, and it just sort of showed. I looked down the clock and I thought, I'm overrun.
Oh, no. Have you got more questions? I can do speed answering.
I have, yeah. Let's do sort of 5 top questions. Speed questions is
speed questions.
A favorite event.
Favorite event. Oh, Manx Mountain Marathon. I'm doing it this year, a decade on. It's 50k and it's in the Isle of Man.
Okay. Favorite shoe.
At the moment, it's the Ultra Timp 4, but if only it wasn't zero drop, might put an insole in.
And favorite sort of fuel source to run?
Ooh, I'm currently loving Morton. It's what Kilian Jornet uses. Actually, Eliud Kipchoge uses it as well. Yeah, I really hate gels, but these gels are like jelly and they're not too sweet, so I love them.
Yeah. And one more question. Let's go for something completely random. Let's go.
Favorite podcast?
Yeah, I was going to go more simple. I was going to go, you're a pizza or burger person?
Oh, I am probably pizza
Yeah.
or veggie burger.
Yeah.
I've become a little bit more veggie, vegan-y, veggie, planty. I do eat meat still,
Yeah.
but yeah, I've become a bit more because of the sustainability issues and the chopping of the rainforest down for beef, etc. I've
Yeah.
become a bit more vegified. So yeah, yeah, a nice veggie burger or halloumi burger, or nice pizza. Yeah, I like both really. It depends what day it is.
Depends what day of the week it is. It's yeah, we've it's during for family birthdays, people come around to ours and we got a pizza oven and a barbecue, and it's normally both are
Wow.
on at the same time. Because
Wow. Heaven.
yeah, it's completely random. Nothing talking. If you ever get the chance to get a pizza oven, it's the best sort of
Really?
garden cooking sauce. Like cook a pizza in 30 seconds in a
Wow.
minute, sorry, and yeah, it's great stuff with the family. Like I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, so they help out
Wow.
making the doughs and everything on those lines. And it's a great little. It gets messy and whatnot, but it's just great fun with the kids to do stuff with the family. And
Oh, that sounds lovely. Yeah, my husband did talk about getting one, and I was like, oh, that sounds difficult. Why can't we just put it in the oven? But yeah, my friend got one, and
once
it
you've had
tastes
a
so
pizza
good.
from a proper pizza
I
oven,
know what you mean. Yeah.
you'll never have oven pizza again, because you're like, the
Yeah,
taste is just so much better.
it really
I think it's
is.
because the normal ovens just can't get hot enough.
Yeah,
Whereas,
yeah, yeah.
so
It really is
one other
lovely.
thing quickly is
Mm.
obviously you've got a young little one,
Yeah, 1.5
and
now ish.
how and obviously I used to, during lockdown, my youngest was 1 and my eldest was just 3, I think, or just under 1, just under 1 and just coming up to 3. So I actually, to help keep out and going doing stuff, a lot of our local woods put on like little Gruffalo trails and whatnot. And I used to take the kids out on buggies, and we've actually got 3 different buggies depending on whether they're single buggies, double buggies, an off-road running buggy, and then the normal buggy. Have you ever done any sort of buggy running or anything along those lines?
Oh yeah, every week at park run. Yeah, I take Finley to park run every week, and we run with the buggy. We use the mountain buggy terrain.
Yeah,
I really like it because
the
it's got
one
a
I got.
swivelly wheel. Yeah, I really like the swivelly wheel. Somebody told me that you're supposed to lock it when you go running, otherwise it can tip over. But I'm like, I don't run that fast. I still have it on swivel even if I'm running, because I just can't be bothered with pushing down to move it from side to side to lift the wheel up at the front. But yeah, I like that buggy. In all honesty, I hate running with a running buggy. I find it really annoying. I only run with a running buggy if I don't have any other childcare options. So it puts about 3 to 5 minutes on my park run best time.
Yeah.
So I have a buggy PB and a post-birth PB, and then a PB for when I was young and fit. Yeah, but I think running buggies are brilliant. But if I had the choice, I would definitely not run with a buggy because it's just a massive back.
It
Like you
is
can't
fat
do
and it
this,
is
can you?
hard
It's like,
work.
oh, it goes through them.
Can't use your arms.
Yeah,
And for me,
but
I
it's better
work
than not running. So that's
exactly.
it's good for that reason.
Yeah, I think I remember that ours. I think I weighed, including buggy and children, everything. It was an extra like 40
Oh,
kilograms.
I don't know how these people, they're overtaking me at parkrun with 2 children in there. They are men, but it's really, really, really
Oh,
amazing. There's a lot of very fit people at our parkrun. And I have done a running buggy test if anybody's interested. If you type in running buggies while ginger running, you'll see that me and my friend Julia, who had a baby at quite a similar time to me, we did a test of 6 of them. So you really get to see the ins and outs of each different type of buggy. And 2 of them are ones that that are also bike trailers. So you can hook them to the back of your bike. And I use that quite a lot as well, actually for getting the shopping. So yeah, I get the food shop in that to try and be more eco-friendly rather than using the car. And when it comes to winter, Finley will go in that to go to nursery because it'll be a bit warmer for him to go in the sheltered little trailer rather than in the bike seat on the back of the bike. So yeah, lots of options there.
Yeah,
But
well,
he's very outdoorsy baby.
one of the companies we work with, Run 3D, they the founder, Jessica Leach, she was the world record holder for a marathon in
Oh,
Buggy running.
yeah, I saw her interviewed,
Yeah.
and all I could think of was like it's 3 hours 20 or something like that, isn't it? Her record. I was just like, how on earth do you get your kids to stay in the buggy without yowling for 3 hours? Like, does she just do that on the marathon day
No,
and just
so
that, or does she practice taking them in the buggy for 3 hours? Because I just think that's not fair on the kids, surely. Like, all respect to her for pushing the buggy for that far, but I don't know if I'd want to do that to Finley.
no, they're used to it though. The kids are, they've always, she's a massive runner. Her and her husband are massive runners,
Yeah.
and they've always went out running as a family, and they didn't want to stop running when children come. So now she doesn't do it because the kids are older, that they're not in the buggies now. But yeah, it was. I did say to her, I sort of said, I have issues sometimes when mine were a little younger, keeping them in a buggy for an hour occupied. How
Yeah.
do you manage 3 hours? And she sort of, we just planned the marathon times around nap time, so they would have their naps,
Yeah, 2 hour naps and then
2 hour
half hour
naps
each side. Yeah.
in the buggy, and have the half hour each side. And it used to be just planned
Yeah.
um around that. And then unfortunately she lost the record because her husband beat her.
Oh, what a oh. How
So
annoying. Was that planned? Did he
it
plan to
wasn't,
beat that?
planned. No,
Oh,
it just yeah, it just happened. And it was but again, 3 hours 20. There are many people happily
yeah.
with that time
Exactly that.
without a buggy.
Yeah. What's her time without a buggy then? It must be sub 3, surely.
I think she's pushing around that. I've known her for a number of years now. We will go out running when we're at events. And yeah, it's always like when Jess says to me, Nick, should we go for a run? I'm like, hang on, are we going for a Jess run or are we going for a Nick run? What type of run are we going on here?
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Just
I
warning
need to
it.
know. You need to warn
Yeah.
me.
Gosh, it's amazing. I suppose if you've done it from such a young age and planned it around their naps, I wonder how they plan around the London Marathon, because that's a set time, isn't it? So
Yeah.
it'd be a tricky one. But if they've done it for that long, but I have like Finley, when he's not got a cold and doesn't fall asleep at park run, he's like writhing around after 20 minutes, going, "Mom," and that makes me speed up actually. So yeah, he's just writhing around after 20 minutes. He's like, wants to get out and go on his
Or you
balance
get the
bike.
Mom, I need a wee type thing.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like,
well he's still in nappies because he's only like 19 months
yeah.
old, so I don't have to worry about that yet.
Yeah,
Thank
just
goodness.
wait till you have that happen, and then they're not in nappies, and then you have to keep stopping, and then
Yeah,
yeah. But I just want to say a massive thank you for coming on and chatting with us. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think that's been
yeah,
shown
no problems. It's
by
been
the
fab.
time
Thanks,
that
they were great questions. Really enjoyed it, and I hope that it helps some of the people that listen to your podcast, like some of your podiatry people.
no, thank you very much. So thank you for tuning in and listening to this month's podcast. We will put all the details for Claire's sort of YouTube details and the book in all of the comments. So if you do have any questions for myself or Claire, please do get in touch, and we shall see you on the next episode. See you later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Right, let's stop recording.